Bing bop, boom bop, boom bop, bang. That's a pretty good one. Yeah. Hey guys, this is Cade Flory with Cade Flory Films. We're here with part 2 of our Alaska series where we're going through the preparations to film a 10-day hunt on the North Slopes of Alaska. I got my camera here, so we're going to go over this rig and specifically why I choose it and why it's going to be with me on 90% of my jobs. Before we get too deep into this, I just want to point out I'm not trying to sell anybody a specific camera. I just want to go over what specifically works for me and what key features and aspects of a camera rig I'm looking for when I'm taking it into the field. Now this is the Sony a7S III. I spent quite a bit of time last year trying to decide what direction I wanted to go. I was looking to upgrade my Sony a7 III to a more specific videography cam or cinema cam, as some might call it. And I spent a lot of time handling a lot of different cameras. The main thing I would say if you're going into videography and looking for, to upgrade your equipment is try to nail down what you need the camera for, right? Not every job is the same job, and get equipment that fits your niche. What specifically do you need to perform at the best of your abilities under the conditions that you're going to find yourself in 90% of the time. So that's why I chose the a7S III. It's got a lot of different features that allow me to get great shots under all the conditions I'll find myself in. One being the low light conditions. I can shoot a base ISO range of up to 12,800 in S-Log3 and 10-bit 422 on this camera. So huge factor leading into that purchase and why I choose to take this into the field. We'll get into a few other things like the accessories I have on it as well. Now the way it is set up for me right now is probably how you're going to find it the majority of the time with me in the field. Given a few factors, weight and maneuverability, I do handhold most of my shots when it comes to filming in the field. So weight is a factor, and also being able to maneuver around and not have something big that I have to use two hands to handle and carry around most of the time. So with that being said, I have a V-mount battery. This has been huge for me. If you don't know what a V-mount battery is, this is a giant external battery. It can run the camera, my monitor, and my mic all day and still leave some extra juice at the end of the day. So it's been very helpful, allowing me to spend less time, messing with my batteries and changing out batteries throughout the film. Also, I have my Atomos Shinobi monitor. The reason I chose the Shinobi over the Ninja is weight. This is a lot lighter than the Ninja. Yes, that may mean the quality is a little different, but so far I haven't noticed a huge difference. I don't shoot in RAW format, so that's a lot of the reasons why some people lean towards the Ninja over the Shinobi, but I don't shoot that way. I just need it to see my LUTs. If you don't know, but you can use LUTs on camera monitors to show what your post product is going to look like as you're shooting that scene. So it's huge. It's important to me because I can get my exposure right before I shoot, and I know what it's going to look like while I'm editing in post-production. So we have our mics. This is a Comica VM20. This is actually my backup mic that I run. My main microphone is on the camera right now on my A7R5. It is a Sennheiser MK400. Now you'll see that I don't typically run an XLR mount. Now with that being said, the way I use the camera and the way I need it to perform, I don't necessarily need it. Now, if you're in a big commentary environment, when you have a lot of speaking going on, a lot of different voices, where it becomes very important what sound is coming from where and the cleanness of the audio, yes, that can play a big factor. But for what I need the camera to do and how I'm capturing audio, I find that some of these, kind of mid-range to higher end auxiliary microphones typically can do the job. So I highly recommend the Sennheiser MKE400. It's been a great microphone. I've used it 100% of the time on all of my hunts, and it's performed well. The ND filter is, last but not least, this is really, really important when it comes to your shots. If you're new to filming and new to videography, I highly recommend you start just by understanding exposure, aperture, and your depth of field and what you want your shot to look like, right? So the ND filter, the variable ND filter, which is what this is. This one is the Peter McKinnon version. I'll tag that as well, but it allows you to adjust your exposure outside of your camera body, right? So we all know there's a couple ways to adjust your exposure, including your aperture and ISO. So if I know going into a shoot I'm gonna stick with my base ISO of either 640 or 12,800 with this particular camera, I can't adjust that. That is non-negotiable. I'm not gonna adjust it outside of the camera. The next thing I can adjust is my shutter speed and my aperture. Now there are some certain guidelines we follow when we're using our shutter speed and what frame rate we're filming at. So we typically try to keep that the same as well. And lastly, you have your aperture, which is most of the time when filming, if you don't have an ND filter, that's what you're gonna adjust. The only problem with that is when you start adjusting your aperture, you're gonna start changing your depth of field on your shot. So if you're looking for something to have some good bokeh and good focus on the subject and have that blurry background, you're gonna want your aperture to be at a certain range. So the ND filter will allow you to adjust for exposure and what light is coming into the camera without you necessarily having to change your internal settings on your camera. So you can keep your shot and your depth of field the same without having to adjust those settings. It's a huge necessity when you're filming outdoors, especially in the environments I'm in. I don't get to pick what time of day I shoot in. I don't get to pick how the sun's gonna look. I don't get to pick if there's gonna be overcast or not. In my line of work, I don't get to choose those conditions. I have to shoot, when the moment is there. So having an ND filter is huge for that. It allows you to adjust on the fly, especially in very bright sunny conditions, which I find myself in quite a bit. So I do have my handy dandy cotton strap here. So I typically handhold most of my shots in the field. I don't have a top handle. I did run it in the past. I just found that it got in the way of what I was trying to do because I mainly film, with both hands, and I let the camera do most of the work with its in-body stabilization. So no top handle for me. I try to keep it as minimal as possible, and it kind of helps me with my mobility and being able to adjust well and just be adaptive and use my feet to kind of get me in the right position. So like I said, there's a lot of different factors that contribute to your setup, and everything is going to be different for you. Just set it up how you're comfortable with. Don't put something on your camera that is just in the way that you don't need. If you find something's just getting in the way, just remove it. It's just going to cause issues and take your mind off what you're trying to do. So we'll see what it looks like when we get to Alaska. I'm going to start probably with this configuration, but to be honest, it's probably going to dwindle down into just the camera and the audio and my lens and ND filter as we go. Weight's going to be a huge factor. This does weigh probably, I would say, I don't know, 5 pounds, probably between 4 and 6 pounds. It's pretty heavy after a while of carrying that around, especially being outdoors and gaining elevation, losing elevation. It's not going to be fun. So we'll see. I'll adjust as I go, as I usually do, but this is usually how my camera is going to be set up in the field. Let's get into lenses. On the camera right now is my go-to lens. This is a Zeiss Bodice 40mm prime lens. Now, I've used zoom lenses in the past. I mainly stick to primes at this point. The main reason and my whole goal when setting up my camera is to reduce entirely the amount of friction that I can as possible and simplify my shots the best I can. What I mean by that is if I have a zoom lens on here, that's just one more thing I have to think about. What focal length am I at? Do I need to adjust it? Do I need to zoom in? Do I need to zoom out? It's just another factor that I'm having to think about while something is happening live in front of me. So being able to use a prime, sticking to one single focal length and adjusting my feet as I go just allows me to stay more immersed in what is going on in front of me and just maximize my creative ability with that and just help with my storytelling. So that's why I use primes. I'm not saying that you have to. That's just the main reasons that I do. I do really like these Zeiss Bodice lenses. They have great weather coping capabilities. They are very light for what they are. This is an 85mm 1.8, and as well as the glass. So I've used Zeiss in a lot of other aspects throughout my life, hunting optics and binoculars and things of that nature. So the quality is there, and it's a great lens. I typically will stick to the 40mm for most of my shots, and then switch over to an 80mm if I need to get something more detailed. And there are situations where I do need to punch in and get something that's further in the background. For that, I typically will just throw a 70-200 on my photography camera, my R5, and just use that as a B cam. So I still have that option when needed, but just simplifying this rig just allows me to stay more immersed in the story that's going on in front of me. So that's why I use primes. And yeah. So outside of this video, this is the camera that's going to be filming everything I'm doing. I hope this video was helpful. I hope it does go to show that, you know, you don't have to go out and buy the most expensive camera there is out there, right? And a lot of times that really expensive camera is not the right camera for the job. This Sony a7S III is the camera for my job. I truly believe in that. If you are an outdoor creator, I would highly recommend it. There are some other great offerings as well, but this is the one I use, and I love it. It works perfect for me. So I appreciate you guys tuning in on this series for Alaska. We leave in just a few more weeks, but the next series is going to be over my pack and equipment, and we're also going to go to the range and shoot a little bit. So I'm excited for it. Just stay tuned. Thank you.